All right, so here we are for video 5 on the chapter of sexuality and gender for psychology. And last slide or last video, we were talking about some of the observable differences, and I say some, and I emphasize observable because, yeah, okay. In this slide, in this chapter, I want to talk about some of the theories. So, if you were in human growth and development, we'd be talking more about a lot of these theories, and certainly in sociology, there's also reference to some of these theories. But the idea here is that this concept of gender role, right? It's a cognitive thing. So gender role being ideas about how you think about being a boy or a girl. So that means it's cognitive, it's thinking, and you're not born with these patterns of thought, but you have to develop them, you have to learn them, right? And so there's a couple different theories. One is social learning theory, which is really more of the emphasis on the social side. And the idea is that we learn about what it means to be a boy or a girl by watching other people, right? That's the learning part, that's the social part. And then we're rewarded for when we conform to gender expectations. We're punished when we don't. At some point, we identify with our same-sex parent, and then we act like we identify as a girl. That's a girl. Then we do what the girls do. Yeah, and then gender schema theory is also it's also a cognitive idea, but this is the idea of a schema is that you have lots of beliefs that hold together relative to like one thing. So if I were to ask you like, what are boys like? And you would say, I don't know, I'm just making this stuff up, but you say, like what words come to mind when you think about boy? And you might say sports and masculine and cars and I don't know, talkative or whatever ideas come up. That would be your schema. And so it's like boys do boy things boy ways, right? Or girls do girl things girl ways. And the idea is that children have a little bit of information, and every experience they have, they attach new information to their schema. So it's like a stereotype, except it's a cognitive model, right? And but again, we're not born with it, but we learn it. And then some of the data, some of the evidence, what we see in children in terms of in terms of their understanding, for instance, as early as preschool. And psychologists use this as evidence support for that the brains are different and that the early stages of physical development and cognitive development are different, distinctive enough. Sociologists, again, emphasize that these patterns are taught really young, right? Because we all have a schema, right? The parents have a schema too. So when they're born with it, when they're given a girl or a boy at birth, they engage those schemas. Like one of the things my mom used to say, she was really glad I wasn't a boy because she didn't want to go to sports games. Well, so when I ended up playing softball, not for very long, because her schema had girls, not sports. Girls, sports was not in her schema, right? That's what that means. Okay, so like you start to see that boys are playing rougher. They take up more space. Again, is this because that's how their brain is? Is this because of testosterone? Or is this because we do, in fact, parents do let their boys wander further away? That's been documented in controlled research studies. That girls seem to, as I say, bond with fewer peers, and that boys seem to hold more rigid definitions. So boys are less likely as early as preschoolers to engage in girl activities than girls are to engage in boy activities. And this pattern, this notion, um, it carries on really through the rest of a man's life, that men are more rigid in their assumptions about gender differences than men are than women. This is going to be a short video. I'm going to stop it right here because the next two are really about sex and sexuality. So I'm going to cue this one out right now.